Hi everyone, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your report for the week of June 8th, 2020. We had the lunar eclipse occur on Friday at 15 degrees of Sagittarius, and we are officially in eclipse season, which brings a lot of change, a lot of heavy energy, and that eclipse in particular was the first of three that we're going to have this summer, and it was a partial lunar eclipse that squared Mars exactly. The Mars was transiting at 15 degrees of Pisces that day, so it was a very Mars-driven eclipse, and a lot of anger and heavy emotion because Mars is transiting in a mutable water sign currently until it exits at the end of the month when it enters Eris, and that's going to be a whole other ball game. But for now, it's still the energy is strong with Mars, but it's transiting in a very emotional sign. And the eclipse squared Neptune, and Neptune energy is very strong this week. We are in the shadow of Mercury retrograde. We have Venus retrograde, which is a personal planet, and it's also out of bounds. And so that energy is akin to Mercury retrograde, particularly because it's in the sign of Gemini. Venus retrograded on May 13th at 21 degrees of Gemini, and it stations direct on June 25th at 5 degrees of Gemini. So we've got a personal planet, Venus, and it retrogrades in Gemini itself every 8 years. So in this sector of the zodiac, in this sector of your chart, and that's about all sorts of communication and multitasking. We are still in Gemini season. We have the nodes of fate that are in Gemini and Sagittarius. So there is a lot of mutable energy. And then, of course, we've got the strong Neptune because on the 11th, the sun in Gemini is going to make a challenging influence to Neptune. And when when the sun comes to Neptune, it can be very spiritual, and it can be heavy dreams. Neptune rules rules dreams, and it can be very intuitive, but it is highly emotional. And I have heard a lot of stories recently that I knew would be coming because, with Venus, when it did station retrograde, it made an exact, well, almost, it was within a degree of squaring Neptune. And Neptune on the higher level is compassion, and it's creativity, and it's love. But on the lower level, or the more challenging level, it's confusion, it's depression, it's addiction, it's escapism. On the really lower level, it's deception, and it's it's difficult. So that energy is strong for all of us right now, and it can feel very misleading. And with all this mutability, all these mutable planets and mutable signs, our minds and our imagination go in many different directions. It can conjure up a lot of fear. It can conjure up a lot of creativity. I would suggest getting some rest and restoring with this energy because a lot is going to happen this summer. We're going to have a very busy summer. We generally have 2 eclipses every 6 months. This summer we have 3, and we have 2, and then the total solar eclipse occurs on the weekend of the summer solstice, and it falls at the world axis, which is when any planet is at 0 degrees of a cardinal sign, and the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And this eclipse is at 0 degrees of Cancer. That's going to be a big deal. And we're all feeling that buildup. We're in eclipse season, and we have a 3rd eclipse the day after the 4th of July. So a lot happening. And so already this very pressured energy, a lot of change, and yet we have so many planets retrograde, and that we're feeling as well. And so it's reflective, and yet in this sense, eclipses are like wild cards. There's like a lot of unexpected change, a lot of just so much happening at once. And also recognizing that with the Neptune influence very strong, again, really practice tools for you for self-care, and also check in on people that are struggling with depression and with anxiety and addiction issues, because this can definitely be a very challenging time for those that struggle with that. And The other thing is on the 13th of June, Mars is meeting up with Neptune in Pisces, and they meet up together every 2 years, and that starts a new cycle that I find, again, that's not easy energy to work with because it can feel very low energy. It's good for spiritual practice, doing yoga, doing meditation, chanting, manifesting, but it's also really good for getting rest and recharging because, it's been a very tough year. These eclipses, all the planets are retrograding. Saturn will re-enter Capricorn later in July. And that's what really led the year, this whole Capricorn story, when we had all the planets in cardinal signs. So, it's a very different energy right now with all the mutable, going in many different directions. But, we are still working very much with the Capricorn tail through the remainder of the year. And so this week, get rest, restore. It's, prepare for the fact that this is going to be a very intense summer and that this will be a week where emotions could be very confusing. You could see things through a very tilted lens. It may not all be as it appears, or things might be brought to light, but it can be very confusing. So you might want to wait to get more information. Information can get uncovered, definitely, with the sun squaring Neptune and that retrograde of Venus that occurred and is still at play, getting information from the past, hearing things maybe you never completely knew the full story about. That kind of energy is very strong as well. So, and the other thing to bear in mind is that on the 14th of June, Pluto, which is the planet of death and rebirth, is making a challenging square to Eris, the goddess of discord. And that is very fiery energy. We have 5 squares that we're working with. We had the first on January 26th. This is the second of 5 squares. And that's death and rebirth, but it's a lot of anger on the world stage because they are close to the world axis, and that's obvious to all of us. And hopefully the idea is evolution and transformation, but it's going to come with a lot of painful emotions and rage and energy that needs to be purged and evolved and transcended. And so there we are. And so we have a lot to plan ahead for. And so, practicing self-care in that process. And I wish you a lot of luck and take care. Thank you.